Now, would you like to speak first and take everything I was going to say? Well, what we'd really like to do is say a few words, and then we would like to hear from you, because I think sharing, already there's joy in the room on this subject. We'd like to share that. I don't have a certificate in creativity, but I have a life experience. Someone at the back there, she's... Yes. So what occurs to me is really simple. But for the layers of beliefs and thoughts and opinions, we are simply creative. We're not born not creative. We don't live our lives, whether we know it or not creative. When you think about the conversations that you create, relationships you create, homes you create, itineraries that you create, just, can anyone think of something that they're not creating? I couldn't think of anything. And then, of course, it seems to me that the big prize is that you're creating yourself. I mean, who do I think I am? Exactly. It's who I think I am. I create myself. But what's been lovely is to see that that's not written in stone, as I used to believe. I thought, I'm just going to have to manage with who I am. I know I can do this, but I can't do that. My sister's a singer. I am not. I failed to practice the piano, so I'm no longer musical, etc. It's just nonsense, isn't it? But it's the way we wrap ourselves up so tightly with a definition that we've got that makes sense to us about what creativity is. I just think it's life. And then we've got areas that we say, well, this is creativity and this is not. This is artistic and this is not. That's just not true. I don't think it's true. Anyone agree with me? So the whole thing of, for me, learning about the principles was the dissolving. So actually that's not something I did work at it a lot to begin with. But what I've seen is when I take my hands off the trying to work it out, things arise that I always had. And I started off in life with until I thought I couldn't or I shouldn't, and labelled myself. And then, of course, comparison. Who doesn't love a bit of comparison? Like, they can draw, she can paint. You can, can't you? No, it's all over Facebook. And actually, anyone wants to buy, I'm sure you've brought some with you, haven't you? No, it's okay. So I don't want to be dismissive, because I'm just speaking from my direct experience, that I remember making up games endlessly with my friends. Where did they come from? You be this, you be that. Some of them were scripted. You say this, and then I'll say that. So your friend said that, and you said that. What are we doing next? Well, you do this, and I'll do that. And it just all seemed like a big flow of fun. We had made up clubs with little entrance booklets. And we did things like put on plays in the garage. And we won't talk about the next door neighbour, will we? There's David. Poor little David. We were getting creative with him. Not like, no. It was, yeah. So in truth, it was just a little game of doctors and nurses.
About sisters like you. Oh, that's even worse. Oh, well, at least it's not incest. I'm sorry, it was a creative thought that came into my mind. But thank you. When are we not creating? I mean, I think that's to your point, that creativity is just who we are. We're unbelievably, infinitely creating all the time. Sometimes we're creating from the unknown, from what we would call universal mind. And sometimes we're creating from the already known, what we're, I've played this sport a million times, but I'm going to do it a little different today, So the known can be creative because you're designed through the power of mind, thought, and consciousness to be the originator of your creative movie, your experience, your show, whatever it is that's your reality right now, is always being created in the moment with thought known or unknown, in your memory or out of the blue, in your intellect or in your heart. There's different ways of talking about it, but for me, I had all of these beliefs that I could never write, couldn't speak. I already covered that territory this morning. What sifted for me was that he just said, he spoke in such delusional thoughts of the future that looked to me like delusional. That can't be true. That couldn't possibly, this man must be insane. He can't possibly say that. But he was speaking from mind, and he could see the future. He could see and envision conferences like this happening. You'll be speaking all over the world. I'm sorry. Go ahead, hit it. I know you want to. Events like this, all over the world. Well, I'm just quoting him. He said he said, you'll be traveling all over the world. You'll be writing books. You'll transform the field of psychology. And I thought, what? This man is crazy. Why are all these people listening to him? But when he said it from where he said it, and when you hear Sid, or you hear anybody speaking from there, when they speak from the unknown, there is a certainty there, isn't there? There's a knowing where there's no doubt. And that's how people create new businesses. That's how people create new relationships. They don't know how they know, but they know. So that's creation from wisdom, from universal mind. But you can also create with that same power that I'm a bad person. Again, you put it on a loop and listen to it every day, or I'm unforgivable, or I'll never amount to anything, or I'm ADD, or I'm whatever your diagnosis or label you think you are. That's a really powerful one. If you buy into that, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, I'm a depressed person, I'm a whatever, that's creation. But it's creation of a myth. It's creation of an illusion. It's not created from that deeper wisdom and essence of who we all are that creates unlimited possibilities, where every invention, every new government, every change, every discovery that's going to help us solve the problems that we're in today in the Middle East, in climate, in the division in America, in politics, and all these really practical, real things that are happening, they're only limited by lack of creativity, lack of an ability to see beyond what is to what is possible. And it's only in seeing the possible that you open your mind to see the practical way to create the impossible.
I wonder what I'm going to create now. Just on a really basic level, during that year that no one wants to talk about anymore, there was an invitation on a local group, Facebook page sort of thing, and it was somebody saying that for years they've been grappling with following a curriculum, and I'm trying to think what the book is, it'll come to me. But she said, is anyone else interested in forming a group and we could discuss it? And if I'd thought about it, there was no way I wanted to join a group, didn't know anything about it, never heard of the book. My finger pressed the button, and that's led to some lovely, lovely days with 5, sometimes 6 of us, just ladies of a certain age. And I host and they come to my house and we think of something to make. It's been really interesting because I'm a bit gung-ho, surprise there. And so I just think, well, I can do this. And one of the occasions I put out the information about what would you like to do this? Everyone said, oh, yes, please. Making cloth bowls. We're not talking about, beautiful glass objects. We're talking about, it was, so they arrive. One of them has not brought any brushes. Somebody else has not brought any material. Somebody else says, what are we doing? What a great piece of learning for me to see all those facets of people putting up barriers to their creativity without realising it. And a bit of me wanted to be cross, because I put it all in the group. And then I thought, well, something is preventing the people from just simply slipping into, yeah, let's do that. What do I need? Oh, you put a list of stuff. And it was so it was never going to be about them. It was my experience within a group that wanted to be there, who had opted into being a little creative group. And I thought, well, you got a bit impatient. You got a bit judgmental. And so that's the way I see that situation. There's learning in everything. So there was a group that was formed to do something, and there were the barriers. And one of them just said, well, I'm just so scared. And then we chatted, and it was just lovely, and we got on with it, and everyone was pleased. But it's just, I think it's trusting. If you trust, it will come. If you trust, that's what's there all the time. And then this little thing, like, well, it's a radio station you don't want to be listening to. So you don't have to, even if it still plays. Sometimes I feel that. I think, okay, well, you carry on, but I didn't tune you in. I didn't turn you on. So some things are happening, whether we like it or not. We're not compelled. There's no super rule book, but we just buy into. Hey,
Michael and I, my wife, we were having a conversation as we were traveling through Spain, talking a little bit about what was going to happen here. And so we did a little bit of brainstorming and talking about, how we create. And so you can create an idea of the future that is full of fear, right? Like, oh God, is the world coming to an end? Is, we're going to get a hurricane tomorrow? Is Israel and the gods are going to go create World War III? Or, you can have all kinds of thoughts like that. But when you create an idea of the future without fear, you don't add the fear added to the imagination of the future creates limitation. It's all based on past experience, what's happened in history. The stories that we tell about this group or that group, the Russians, the Americans, the Jews, the Palestinians, the this, the that, and the other. We have all these thoughts. But when we think of the future without fear, false evidence appearing real, it's the acronym, false evidence appearing real. When we believe our fears, then it limits seeing the possibility. But when we enter into the unknown, and we're always in the unknown because, that was the past, now here's the unknown. So we're creating a new moment now, and a new moment now, and a new moment now. And so what allows you to not have fear? For me, it's knowing that within every human being, all of humanity, not just me, not just 3 principles people, every human being on earth has the same unlimited imagination, possibility, and when people believe in the unbelievable, well, that can't possibly, we can't possibly have peace on earth. We can't possibly save the planet. It's too late. When you put that out there, that's really powerful because you're creating your reality. And we are collectively, as humanity, creating the reality that we call history. That's been our history. But when you create from infinite possibility of mind, those are the people that are the change makers in the world. And you are all part of that. We're all, what the world needs now so clearly to me is this understanding. Because if people just knew how this worked and how to use it, they wouldn't live in such fear. Because fear leads to violence. Fear leads to scarcity consciousness and stinginess, and you don't want to give. Fear leads to depression, immobilization, inaction, apathy, all of this stuff that's going to create a very negative future. But when you come to these conferences, it's like, where did all these happy people come from? How can you fill up an auditorium with this many healthy people? You could take any audience anywhere in the world, and it's happening in Ukraine. The principles are being taught to the refugees. It's happening in Russia. It's happening in America. It's happening everywhere in the world. And as this consciousness rises, it's all about the level of consciousness. And the principles, to me, are the most powerful vaccine to reawaken the innate health of hope. And hope is what we need to create a new future, a different future, a better future, a one that no one could ever possibly imagine. So I'm kind of talking globally here. Or you could talk about what happened in the garage.
Moving on from that, well, is anyone happy to share some of their thoughts around creativity, their experiences, the joy or the misery? We're all okay with all of it.
I'd like to share something and also ask a question, if that's okay. So sort of going to Joe's point, when you were talking about when you're creating yourself and you can create yourself quite negatively, I find that when I've got days that I've got a lot of thinking about myself, I don't have space for doing any of my creative stuff that I do. Like, it's just not happening. And also, I'm just not seeing anything beyond myself. I can see that really, really clearly. But it's one or the other. And then another thing I find that limits me is when I'm trying to do it right. In anything at all. Like, be the right person, do it right. And a question I had in the last group that I didn't get to ask, so I'm going to do it here because it's kind of related, is this discourse around wisdom sometimes. When you're following your wisdom, are you following it, are you not following it? I find that sometimes I slip into trying to do the right thing by following my wisdom or not following my wisdom. And I'm just curious as to how you both relate to that and how that links in with creativity.
Well, it's not practical, but on those days, just stay in bed. Totally unhelpful, but in a sense of, like, I've stopped being concerned about myself and how I'm feeling. It's coming around again. It's in an ebb and a flow, and when we're in the ebb, we really worry, and then we get back in the flow and we're not thinking about it. Well, there's wisdom. It's when we're not thinking, I think. Can't get away from it. I relate to what you're saying, and I don't stay in bed on those days, so that was silly, but just tempting.
After I wrote the last book, Thriving in the Eye of the Hurricane, I made a podcast a few months later after I found out we had to demolish our home. And I said I didn't realize that this series was going to be, this book was going to be an autobiographical experience of the hurricane in my own life. Anyway, that's a side point. The thing I wanted to share was Michael, my wife, is an extraordinary artist, a poet. She's got an online Kind Over Matter. She's on every month, her poetry. And everyone, God, Michael, this is so creative. But her story was really interesting, because she was always very artistic. But she showed me a picture when we were recently in Arkansas. She drew a picture of Christ, with the thorns. She was in 7th grade, and it looked like a photograph. It was like, whoa, this woman was really talented. And so she was, she won the Arkansas Award for Best Artist, and she's a very good artist. But she said, back in the 70s, she was just really wanted to know how everything worked. She wanted to know how everything worked. I want to know how, not just art works, not just book, I want to know how everything works. She made that big wish. So a wish is a creative, it opens the door to the unknown. So she's laying on a blanket next to a lake in Arkansas, and she's just laying there looking at the leaves and the light on the water, and she has this kind of Big Bang insight about how everything works, not just art, but everything. And she said, after that experience, she knew that she would never have to think about what she was drawing. And from that moment forward, her art completely changed. And she could draw 50 lines in a row like that without looking at the page on really expensive paper. And they would all be perfectly placed with exactly the right distance. So she said, I wasn't doing art anymore, art was doing me. And then she started writing poetry out of nowhere. And if you see Michael's studio, it's a mess. Oh my God, you can't find anything in there. It's just like, how does she find any paintbrush or anything? But so she's writing a book of poetry now. And so she's gathering up these little pieces of paper here and there and everywhere on the back of envelopes. And she finds one on the floor on the back of a matchbox, a book of matches. And it says, there are no mistakes, only the revelation of the inner self. There are no mistakes, only the revelation of the inner self. So no mistakes in art, there's no mistakes in life, because anything you do is going to give you feedback. And if you're open in the moment to seeing that, you can correct. And some nights you'll wake up in the morning, the Kleenex box is completely covered with prints, clear, top, bottom, everywhere, because the only thing she could find to write on. But because the poems just come through her, this never has to change anything. Just this beautiful poetry that just flows through her. But it happened because of that experience. She realized that she never had to think about what she was going to write or paint again. It was all going to come from the universal. So when she heard Sid, many years later, it explained the whole thing. And I'm an intellectual psychologist, so she's just been poking me throughout the years, to just trust yourself. Don't think about it. Just go in the room and just start writing and see what comes to you. When you're in your sessions, don't worry about the outcome. She's such a great mate. She just keeps reminding me to listen to my heart, which is a metaphor for the universal mind. Because it has all the solutions and all of the questions that open the Pandora's box to the solutions. The question is, enclosed in the question is always the answer, if your heart and mind are open. So don't be afraid to doubt and question. That's, to me, creativity. It's just wondering why, wondering how. And so my way, not every day, but a lot of times I'm wondering, we have a question in our life, how are we going to get through this latest deal that's going through in the world? I'll write, and it will come out of me. It will just, and the more I see that when I let go, it comes out, the more I trust that, the less I worry, the less I have fear, the less I have anxiety, because I just know, yeah.
Can I ask a question? I love this invitation to listen. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
I love this invitation to listen to our heart. It totally resonates with me. I'm such a heart-centered person. But my question is, sometimes I have a question within my mind, within my being, and I don't know whether the answer is from the heart or from another radio station that doesn't give me the right kind of guidance. So I just wondered whether you could speak a little bit to how to differentiate when the answer comes from the heart, from the universal mind, or whether it comes from the conditioned mind that doesn't give us such good guidance.
Well, I grappled with that for a long time and did a lot of thinking about, is this thought wise or is this thought conditioned? Is it from the past? Is it imagined future? And I suppose what I would say to that is, when I knew, I knew. And when I didn't know, there was a lot of thinking about, is this wisdom or is it not? So I think it's that, and going back a bit to the previous point is, I was very fortunate to meet Sid and spend time at a conference, and then at a retreat. And I just remember the really simple things, like do more of what you enjoy. Well, that's lovely, it's a great idea, but I didn't know what I really enjoyed because I was always trying to figure out the problems so I could get on to what do I enjoy. And so then what I learned was in whatever sort of situation like that, flip it. Like, get on with what you enjoy and then everything else will take care of itself. Because we're not talking about becoming reckless and shame. We're not talking about throwing everything away that we have, but we're just saying the portal, step aside, the portal's there.
If you're trying to figure out, was that real or was that Memorex? Was that really coming from my inside or is that something I've just made up in my imagination? You're using the wrong thing to discern that. So any kind of confusion, just let it go. And sometimes we say put it on the back burner, just sleep on it. There's terms of wisdom that come from our grandparents and from everybody. Just let it go. Go for a walk. Because it's when you're not thinking about it that the portal opens again to where that insight came from. And you will feel the truth of it, or you will feel, oh no, that was just a whimsical thought. So it's, that has been a huge thing for me to know, not to try to figure out whether this is really coming from my ego or is it coming from my intellect. And any thinking about it is just going to muddy the water more. So you want to just let it go, get some distance, and know that it will come to you clearly in the moment when you're taking a shower, they say a lot, or out for a walk, or noticing your breath, or in meditation, when you're not thinking about your problem, the solution to it. But when you're trying to figure it out, you're back in the world of personal thought. So it feels really different. But sometimes, even in a busy mind, I'll have an insight. So you don't want to make rules about that either. But my advice, what I tell myself is, when I'm all worried and concerned about something, I let it go. I'll go, like when I'm writing and I'm blocked, I'll go chop wood. I'll go for a walk. I'll go fishing. And in the middle of doing something fun and enjoyable, boom, and suddenly I run back to the computer and start writing again. So when I'm in a block. So that's, creativity doesn't work very well under pressure, though it can. There's all kinds of exceptions to this. But in general, I would say the best thing is to put it on the back burner, let it go. Maybe you write about it, or you talk with a friend who's a good listener and will hear you out. I'm really confused about this. I don't know whether I should come to Viva next year or not, or whatever. Yeah.
I think I was born with a fear of commitment. So I don't know if that has to do with things, but so so some decisions are very challenging or not. I just get confused and I don't know, and I go into my mind as pros, cons, this, that, and so I finally found the answer is I don't know what I want to do about this particular decision, and that's really scary, living in the I don't know, and then the I don't know you can pile stories upon that and build a skyscraper, and then I finally learned the only thing that I know is I don't know, and I got comfortable with that. So I bought the ticket for Viva 3 months ago. I bought a refundable ticket and cancelable because I have my mother. I never know if I need to go back, and I just didn't know if I wanted to come. I just did not know if I wanted to come. People would ask me, "Hey, are you going to Viva?" And I would say, "I don't know." And at first they would say, "You gotta go, you gotta go." And then I would say, "Okay, I guess I'm going." And then I went back to, "I don't know." And the most beautiful thing was I eventually had peace with it. And I really don't know. I don't know. And for me, the sleeping on the pillow thing, consultar con la almohada. I don't know if they say that in Spain, but anyway, I forget, but like you said, it always comes back. What's coming back? Hold on a minute. I don't know.
Where does it come?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, your version of it. My version of it is when you don't know and you're confused, I've learned to know that means do nothing. That's my equation. If you're confused, do nothing. Do not take action. So I don't know. So I don't know for 3 months. And no problem. And then last week, people asked me, "Are you going to Viva next week?" I said, "I don't know." And then I didn't know. I didn't know. And it didn't matter. I let it go. It wasn't a problem. It was no problem. I'm like, I don't care, I don't know. And then on Friday, this water fountain just, backwards waterfall, just, Friday morning, it just came out and it was this it was this magnetic, yes. And I was like, oh my God, it gives me goosebumps. I woke up Friday morning and then I said, well, I booked this 3 months ago. Let me just make sure when the plane leaves. And I thought it left on Thursday. And then I looked, it left on Monday. It left on Monday. So I almost missed the plane that I wasn't going to go on. But, so that was just to your point of whoever spoke about wondering the things that, for me, I've learned that, and I told Sheila, I told her that it was like a bud that was given its time to blossom, and that's how the answer came. So some answers don't come right away. I had another major decision, and I didn't know for a year what to do. And then, bam, somebody asked me a question. It was a clarifying question, and the whole world light bulb lit up. So anyway, I just want to say my experience are some I don't knows are not overnight. That's all. That was just me.
Who wants to get creative?
Oh, this is an expensive mic.
I don't really know my question, but it's just been playing around. Is the priority of the things I have to do overtaking my creative outlets and then being more important, and that I'm trying to force myself to do creative stuff because I need to make these things. I'm important. My creative outlets are important, and I get there. I don't want to do it. I'm not in it. I'm just thinking about, I've got work, and so then I'm not enjoying this creative outlet, and it just feels so forced. And so I thought I'm going to take a break from doing it, and it's been about a year and a half, and I've been doing a bit of painting, a bit of drawing, but it's just not been feeling so good anymore. And
I just don't know what to do about that, because I know that I love it and I'm good at it, but why doesn't it feel important anymore? And it makes me feel like emotional talking about it. I want it to be important because I know that it makes me happy and it makes me feel connected to my creative side, but everything else is just more important, and I feel in limbo, you know, of this, like, none of it's important, but all of it's important, and I don't know what to do about it. So can you speak to that?
Yes, I wonder where the hierarchy of importance comes from.
Yes.
But thinking my rules didn't exist.
Where do they come from? It's just
Where
like,
do you think they come from?
yeah, I've created this list, and now I have to follow it. And the things that bring me joy are at the bottom. They're not
Doing
all at the top.
everything else first. No,
Yeah.
it's never time.
No.
Because that list never ends.
Yeah.
Because we're creating it the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think inquiry, you know, noticing inquiry, and don't, and then you.
Well, I was just thinking of the list in the Serenity Principle. How many read the Serenity Principle? Yeah. So there's a story that I tell in the beginning of the book about a guy who wanted to know what's going to happen in the afterlife. You know, what's hell? Is there a hell? What's it like? And so he makes a wish that he will be able to go to hell and find out what hell is like. So he makes the wish, and all of a sudden it's at the door, the gates of hell. And there's a little trap door there that says open if you want to enter. So it opens up, and Lucifer's in there. He says, "May I come in?" And he says, "Yes, you may come in. But I just want to see what it's like." You know, so he goes in, and he goes around and looks at hell, and it looks exactly like Earth. There's no difference. It's a replica, but everybody's miserable on that side. And on the other side, you know, people are all over the map. But on that side, definitely hell. I don't know, he didn't go to heaven yet. So he said, "Oh, this sucks." I'm like, "Thank God I can leave." So he goes to leave, and there's the door. And he noticed that there's a list at the top of the door that says, "Before you leave hell, you must satisfy these 3 conditions." Go. Didn't realize that those were there. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm a really good workaholic. I can get a lot done. I got my to-do list. I know how to do this. So he wrote the first one down. Immediately went, got to take care, came back, it was crossed off, but the list didn't go by. So then I thought, oh shit, you know, then maybe I'll run faster. So he ran faster and faster. And he did 3 things, all 3 things at once. Came back, and the list fell by 3. Couldn't, so he was running around, and again, everybody on that side was miserable, and the other side not. So he finally, he's so exhausted from trying to keep up with the list. Sound familiar? So finally, keep up with the list, and finally he collapses in front of the door and falls into a deep sleep. And in the dream, he imagines that the door isn't locked. So he startles him, he wakes up, and he chastises himself for even having that thought. It can't be that simple. It can't be that easy. But he didn't know what else to do. So finally, in the last gasp of energy he reached up and grabbed it. So that's the story. He grabbed it and